All right, today we're jumping into the first half of the Gospel of John. And this book is something special. It's written as an eyewitness account, from someone who was one of Jesus' closest friends. But what's really key here is that it was written with a very clear purpose, a goal that the author tells you, right up front. So check this out. The author just comes right out and says it. They're laying all their cards on the table. This isn't just some historical biography. No, it's an argument. It's written to try and convince you of something huge, that this person, Jesus, is the Messiah, and that by believing in him, you can have this whole new kind of life. It's a really bold mission statement, and it sets the stage for everything that comes next.
So, how does John kick things off? Well, you might expect a manger scene, right? But nope. Instead, we get this kind of mind-bending cosmic poem, and it makes some of the biggest, most incredible claims about who Jesus is that you could possibly imagine.
It starts with, "In the beginning was the Word," and that should immediately ring a bell. It's a direct callback to the first line of the whole Bible, in Genesis. Now, this term, the Word, or logos in Greek, is huge. John is using it to talk about, God's creative will, his very mind and purpose. He's saying this Word existed from the very beginning. It's distinct from God, yet at the same time, it is God. And then comes the absolute knockout punch. This divine cosmic Word became a human being, Jesus.
To help us get our heads around this, John pulls out this incredible image from the Old Testament, the tabernacle. Remember that? It was the sacred tent where God's glorious presence literally came down to dwell among the people of Israel. So John's claim is just staggering. He's saying that same divine presence, that place where heaven and earth met, actually became a human being in Jesus.
And you're going to notice something about the author, John. He absolutely loves the number 7. For him, it's all about completion, perfection, and he does not waste any time. We're still in chapter 1. Right after Jesus meets John the Baptist and starts gathering his first followers, he's given not 1, not 2, but 7 different titles.
And these aren't just, nice little nicknames. The weight of these titles is immense. Think about it. In just one chapter, this guy from Nazareth is called the long-awaited Messiah King, the ultimate teacher of Israel, and the Son of God who's going to take away the sins of the world. These are massive, world-altering claims, and basically the rest of the book is designed to back them up.
So how does he do that? Well, to back up these huge claims, John gives us a series of stories that all follow this really specific repeating pattern. And once you catch on to this pattern, you've basically got the key to understanding the whole first half of the book.
Okay, so here's how the pattern works. Step 1, Jesus does something miraculous, John calls it a sign, or he says something totally jaw-dropping about himself. Step 2, this almost always causes a stir. People get confused, they start arguing, it creates a lot of controversy. And that leads to step 3, everyone who witnesses it is forced to make a choice. Who do they think he is? And how they react tells you everything. Let's see this in action. All right, so this first set of stories shows Jesus coming face to face with 4 huge pillars of Jewish life and culture. And in every single case, he doesn't just, participate. He claims that he is the reality that these ancient institutions have been pointing to all along. So this pattern kicks off at a wedding party in a small town called Cana. And the party hits a major snag. They've run out of wine. That's a huge social disaster back then. But Jesus steps in and he performs what John calls his very first sign. And he doesn't just make a bottle or 2 to tide them over. No way. He tells them to fill 6 massive stone jars with water. We're talking about 120 gallons here, and turns it all into the best wine of the entire celebration. The sheer abundance is the whole point. This sign isn't really about saving a party. It's a symbol of the extravagant, over-the-top generosity of God's kingdom.
Next up, Jesus goes to the Jerusalem temple, the absolute heart of Jewish worship. He famously drives out the money changers, and when the leaders confront him, he says something that just blows their minds. "Destroy this temple, and I'll raise it again in 3 days." Of course, he's not talking about the building. He's making this incredible claim that his own body is the true temple, the real place where God and humanity come together. Then there's this fascinating late-night conversation with a top Pharisee, a guy named Nicodemus. Nicodemus comes to him, and he's impressed. He thinks Jesus is a great teacher from God. But Jesus cuts right to the heart of it. He tells him that what people really need isn't just another teacher or more information. They need a complete, radical transformation. They need to be born again. It's about a new heart, a whole new life. And to round out this section, he has this encounter with a Samaritan woman at a historic well. He starts talking to her and offers her living water.
And this whole conversation about getting a drink of water turns into this deep, beautiful metaphor. He's explaining that he is the source of a totally new kind of life, a life that's just soaked in God's eternal love, a life that you can start living right now, and that goes on forever.
So, you see the pattern, right? A sign, a claim, and then controversy. Well, it continues, but the stakes get higher. In this next set of stories, Jesus uses the symbolism of 4 sacred Jewish feasts to make claims about himself that are even bolder and more dangerous.
Take this Sabbath, for example. Jesus heals a man who's been paralyzed for years, but he does it on the holy day of rest, and this just sparks a massive controversy. But when the leaders challenge him, he doesn't back down. He says, "My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working." Whoa! The leaders knew exactly what he was implying. He wasn't just breaking some rule, he was claiming to be equal with God. And to them, that was blasphemy, plain and simple, a crime punishable by death.
Then, during Passover, the feast celebrating Israel's escape from Egypt, Jesus miraculously feeds thousands of people with just a few loaves of bread. But the next day, he makes a claim that's just too much for many to swallow. He says that he is the true bread from heaven, the spiritual food that gives eternal life. And honestly, this claim is so offensive to a lot of his followers that they just up and leave. They stop following him right then and there.
Or how about the Feast of Tabernacles? This was a celebration remembering how God guided Israel through the desert with a pillar of fire by night and gave them water from a rock. In the middle of this festival, Jesus stands up and literally shouts to the crowd. He claims to be the source of living water and the light of the world. He's basically saying, you know that amazing story? I'm the reality it points to. I am God's presence and provision for you.
Okay, so all this tension, all this controversy, it's all building and building towards one final climactic sign. This one act brings together everything Jesus has been saying and doing, and is the thing that pushes his enemies over the edge and directly triggers the final plot to kill him.
So Jesus gets some terrible news. His dear friend, a man named Lazarus, is incredibly sick. Now, the problem is, Lazarus lives near Jerusalem.
And Jerusalem, at this point, is basically a death trap for Jesus. The religious leaders are actively plotting to have him killed. The smart move, the safe move, would be to stay far, far away. But he loves his friend. So after he hears that Lazarus has actually died, he makes this fateful decision. He's going anyway. He's going to walk straight into the hornet's nest with the full intention of raising his friend from the dead. And this is where it all comes together so brilliantly. Jesus performs his greatest sign yet. He literally conquers death by bringing Lazarus back to life. And he does it knowing that this powerful act of giving life to his friend is going to be the final straw. It's the one thing that will seal the deal and guarantee his own death.
And that's where the first half of John's Gospel leaves us, on this incredibly powerful note. Jesus' most profound act of love for one person is the very thing that seals his own fate. It really forces you to ask a pretty heavy question. If this is what Jesus does, if this is how he lays down his life for just one friend, what in the world is it going to look like when he lays it down for everyone?